Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. This is a topic that I have been chomping at the bit to deliver. My name is Sarah from Cerkl, and we are here yet again with another free webinar empowering you and your team to engage like never before. And today we are talking about the sector of your audience who are your donors, your sponsors, your business partners. So today's webinar is the Do Not Call list, what you need to know and what your donors won't tell you. So we're going to get some self-awareness here to help us become better communicators and better engagers of this really, really important part of your audience. Before we get started, though, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping. If you have a question today, we really want this to be interactive. There is a chat box at the bottom of your screen. If you have a question at any time, please jump in. We're also going to be taking live questions at the end of our webinar today. Is this recorded? Yes. We will email you a link at the end of today's recording with some highlights of what you learned today, so you've got all the cliff notes in one place. And a lot of folks watch our webinars and think, I wish my team would have been here. They need to see this. So no problem, you'll be able to send them the recording. This isn't your typical webinar. We're going to go fast and furious. We know you don't have a lot of time. This is not a 2-hour webinar. We're going to try to be done in 30 minutes or less. I have watched webinars where, they've marketed as the 5 secrets, you need to know to change your life. Give me the 5 secrets. I don't want to really go through the whole thing. So each slide of our webinars is really designed to empower you, to give you lists, to give you information, to take back to your team to really evolve all of the strategies that you're using to engage your audience members and your donors. If you have technical difficulties, give us a call. We've got an engagement specialist on standby if your screen isn't advancing, if your sound isn't working. And we'd love to hear from you. Keep the conversation going. Our Twitter handle is @Cerkl News. So here we go. This is me. My name is Sarah. And I like to share with you a little bit about me and my story, the different hats that I have worn. My first job was at a chamber of commerce. I want to give the shout out to all the chambers out there. I think they do great work. From there, I jumped to the Cincinnati Bengals. And here's where I really started to work with sponsors on a really large scale, really learned and cut my teeth on what drove value, what built their business. But my heart was in education, and I always wanted to be a teacher. My mom was a teacher, and she told me, don't be a teacher. Go live all your dreams, and then at the end of the day, if you still want to teach, do it. So I guess I'm still living all my dreams, but I jumped to a local sewer utility, and they had an environmental education position open, and that's what really got me into the closest place that I could be. I wanted to be in the schools, and I wanted to help kids. So I created a position wearing all these different hats where I saw this issue of the businesses really wanting to engage with schools and nonprofits, but the schools not really knowing how to engage them. So I became a business liaison, and I spoke the language of the business, but I spoke the language of the schools, and I learned a ton of how do you really get those two worlds that are very, very different, move at very, very, very different speeds to work together. And today I'm going to give you all my secrets. So these are all of the things that I'm getting ready to say that I have heard businesses, sponsors, and donors tell me, sort of you're going to get to hear the backroom chatter. These are the things that I wish you knew they were saying about you. Okay, so some of this might feel a little harsh, but our webinars are very open, very truthful, and the intent is to really give you the self-awareness. Okay, because the heart of the matter is there is over 1 million nonprofit organizations in the US. So everything that I'm going to tell you is really going to give you a leg up. For you to have that self-awareness, you're going to be way ahead of the game. So I think for you to remember that lots of nonprofits are vying for my money and my time. So this is something to be aware of really your competition out there. The next one is they're not loyal. I am not necessarily loyal to you. For all you Star Wars fans, there's our favorite Anakin. But $25 billion worth of donations are not loyal to an organization, and they're switchable at any time. This is particularly among your millennials, which we're going to talk about in a couple slides. I'm not your ATM. Yes, they feel this way. They feel like the only time you're reaching out to them is when you need a donation or when you need money. We work with one university that I'm not going to name, but they did a study and they discovered that they are asking for money 20 to 1 times in terms of, I ask 20 times for money and 1 time I give a thank you. So really need to be aware of how many times are you asking for something versus how many times are you thanking or giving something. And again, all of these slides, if you're sitting in the spot that I was always sitting in, I either had a board or an executive director that might not always be in the trenches or feet on the ground thinking about these sorts of things. So all of these data points are meant to equip you and arm you with information that you can go back and say, hey, this is how these people really feel. The next one is I want to be thanked, right? They do. 50% of donors say that really personalized thank you is more important than speed. The other thing that you could do is you could get all your business partners in a room, or you could get all your influencers or top donors in a room. Walk them through these slides and ask them, is this true? Do you really feel that way? Even doing that exercise is, again, it's going to put you in a much different light than any other nonprofit or school that they're working with. Show me the money. This means they want to know where their money went and how it made a difference. Show them through storytelling. This is what really connects that head and the heart and makes me want to continue to be engaged with you and to give more. This is an issue too for you. You've got different generations and they all have different expectations. The baby boomers want something different than the millennials. Okay, so we're going to dive in and talk about this issue. The millennials feel like you don't know me, right? The millennials don't know a world without Pandora and Netflix. You know, they're thinking, Pandora knows what music I like. Netflix knows what music I like. How does my church not know me? Or how does the nonprofit that I've been volunteering at for years not know me? So this is where we look at this issue very holistically. We're going to be talking about your community relationship with them, what events you're doing for them, how you communicate with them. So this is where all this starts to really be tied together, that this is what your millennials thinking. If the way that you're communicating looks wonky on their phone, they're out. They don't have high tolerance to wait for you to make it all look good to communicate with them so that you can get your call to action out there. This is another thing you should be aware of. Baby boomers, 50% of them versus 27% of millennials feel obligated or it's the right thing to do to give. Baby boomers will feel this way more than millennials, right? They'll give out of the kindness of their heart. They'll give because it's their citizenry duty. Millennials don't feel this way. They don't feel necessarily an obligation towards their alma mater or towards their nonprofit or towards their church to give. They view those relationships very transactional. Now, millennials will donate, but the reason they donate is out of a personal passion. So if my university that I went to, I'm not just going to give anymore to keep the lights on, but if you're doing something on hunger, I want to be aligned to that. I will give to that project. Not necessarily because I feel an emotional tie to the organization. I feel an emotional tie to the cause. So again, we really at Cerkl try to close the loop between all these activities that you're trying to do with your donors. And we link that and look at What is your communication and marketing department doing? How are you communicating with these people? What's the community relations department doing in terms of events? What's development doing? So let's start with communication, because this is exacerbating all of these negative feelings that they might be feeling towards you. They are frustrated. 75% of people are frustrated that what you're sending them is not matching their interest. Again, you're going to hear me say this through this whole webinar. It really isn't about you. It is about them. It is about how they feel and how they see themselves as the hero in this story. If you don't have a subject line that catches their eye, this is an issue. If you expect people to read in depth, I mean, my goodness, some of these newsletters that I get, it's like I have to read a book to sift through all the information to get to maybe that one piece or that one story that's really meaningful to me. Or if I'm a sponsor, I'm trying to find out, where is the iPad story that I funded for your classroom? I can't find it, and I need to report back to corporate why we did this and what the ROI was for us on our end. Again, if you don't put the donor at center stage, this is frustrating for them. If you're delivering news that they really don't care about, again, this is something that they're frustrated with. And you can't skimp on any of these emotional triggers, right? They gave for a reason. And if you haven't done the exercise of really pulling them in and asking them, why did you give to our organization in the first place? Whatever that reason is, it's going to have an emotion tied to it. And that is a great set of gold gems or clues for you to bring into your storytelling to connect, again, them emotionally and sustain that bond with your organization. And if you don't tell the story, again, you need to tell the story of how what they did manifested itself in making our world a better place. So if you're not doing that in all of your communication, and then on top of that, your donors on average are receiving 88 emails a day. And think about your own life. You might even look at this and think, I wish it was only 88 a day, right? But what is going to make them open your email or your newsletter? Because there's 87 other people that are trying to get in front of them and cut through that noise. This is why we end up with one of the biggest fears of nonprofit organizations is this dreaded unsubscriber, because once somebody jumps out, you legally cannot reach back out to them. Again, they're viewing that what you're sending them is not relevant. I don't have time. This isn't helping me. Or they're viewing it as too frequent. We have some nonprofits that we work with. They've got multiple departments, and they were sending, multiple newsletters out to the same group of people in their audience. The other thing is it's in the wrong style. They are not liking how you are communicating with them. This is all frustrating. They don't have time. They unsubscribe. They put you on the do not call list. I know we're talking about donors, but this is also in the sponsorship realm. This is something that they won't tell you, but putting their logo on your scoreboard, or this was one of my favorite quotes from a business partner that told me this once, putting my logo on your chicken dinner program or on your scoreboard does not build my business, right? So we come up with these sponsorship programs, and really in reality, how is that providing value? How does that truly grow the donor or the sponsor's business? So here is what you need to know. Again, this is a great list for you to keep, that to be thinking about in your own mind. Do we do this at our organization? It needs to be donor-centered, right? It is not about you, your cause, or your organization. It is all about the donor. And it is about giving to them, providing value to them. It is the conduit for which these donors are fulfilling their aspirations. Again, they want to see themselves as making a difference. They want to see themselves as the hero in the story. And if that's not happening through all of these interactions that you are choreographing with them, then that relationship is not going to be sustained. Donors are all very diverse, and they all change. Their interests are constantly changing depending on what life stage they're in. So it's important that what you need to know is you need to know their interest, what motivates them, and what aspirations that they have, and how can your cause and your organization fulfill that. So we're going to do a little test right now so that you're sitting there, you're probably at your desk, maybe you're eating lunch. I want you to get quiet, and I want you to ask yourself this question. What do you know about your donors? I mean, really, when you think about it, what do you know about each individual donor? Do you know what excites them? Like what really gets them jazzed up? Are they into sports? Are they into technology? Are they into entrepreneurship? What is it? Do you know what annoys them? What really gets them heated under the collar? What really gets them jazzed? Do you know what their interests are? Do you know what events that they would find beneficial? Do you know what content, particularly that you're producing, is resonating with them? Do you know what they are reading that you are putting out? Okay, so if you don't know any of that, then you really need to be thinking, are we donor-centric? And if we're not, how do we become donor-centric? So if you're feeling right now, wow, this is a huge cold glass of water to the face, I want to tell you that the things that you're doing are wonderful. The content that you're producing is high quality, the programming. But if you can't react or quickly evolve, it's not you that have changed, it's your donors and the way of the world, and your audience has changed. So you've got to pivot and maneuver and really think about, how are we able to cut through all of this noise to compete with all of these other folks that are trying to grab the time and the talent and the resources from those people that we want a relationship with. So here is another list for you. You need to customize their experience with you, starting with data. Okay, you can't guess anymore. So you need to start surveying the donor interest. Now, we're going to talk about a tool that Cerkl has built to account for all of this, all of these issues that I always had in every job, right? We've sort of automated all of this, but no matter what tool you are using, this is the sort of checklist to get you started down the right path, okay? Show, not tell. Share those stories. Show them that what they are doing and what they did because of State Farm, thank you. Now we are able to connect females with technology, right? Thank you for helping us build the waterway or the aqueduct in Kenya. Now, X amount of people, this is what this means for them to get clean water. You need to really trigger that emotion and keep that top of mind for each one of your donors and your sponsors. You need to create value for them through resonating content. If you don't know what's resonating, that one size fits all, this story goes to everybody, that doesn't work anymore. That's what everyone else is doing. And that's why open rates are hovering around a dismal 20%, between 20 and 22% open rate. So you spend all this time trying to communicate, and still 80% of your population, they're not getting the message. Are your events relevant? We hear this all the time from nonprofits that they struggle to get people at events, or they'll see their donors later on and say, why weren't you at the event last night? And the donor says, I didn't know about it. I just didn't know you were doing it. And so then you go beat your head against the wall with your communication department, think, how could they not know? We put it in the newsletter and on Facebook and Twitter and our website. How is it that we are not cutting through the noise? The reason is because they've stopped listening. That the things that they're getting in their inbox, you don't have a lot of chances. You open it once, I got to sift through a bunch of stuff. I might put it in a to-read file, but I never ever get to that. Give them what they need, not what you need. So again, from that sponsor perspective, how can you really flip that relationship to ask them, what is it that you need from us? This is something when I would, on behalf of our school district, go meet with businesses, and I would ask this question. every time they fell out of their chair. They couldn't believe that the school wasn't there with their hand out asking for donation. They were really trying to figure out, how do we create a win-win? And how can our school district meet your needs? And then give them opportunities to engage with you. But here's the magic. It's got to be based on their skills, their interest, their passion. Because when it's based and rooted in that, it makes them feel valued. And that feeling of feeling valued is really what's going to keep them connected to you and to your organization. So personalization is really what I'm talking about. And I love this quote from Tom Belford. The idea is to think broadly about the types of personally relevant interactions that you can offer each of your supporters. Again, he's talking about events, communication, when you do have coffee. But ideally, each of these interactions should lead to some sustained flow of communications that you can maintain with that supporter. And that's what we're really talking about today. And that's what you want to think about. How do I stay connected all throughout the year with these folks and continue to provide that meaningful interaction offline and online? Now, you might be at a point where you're thinking, that is a ton of work. We have one person in our office. How are we going to do that? And you know what? I thought the same thing too. So we're at the point in this webinar where I am going to show you how our technology works. If you already have technology that does this for you, feel free to hop off, take those lists, take those slides, use them in the ways that you want to with your team to really evolve your relationships with your donors. However, if you need an affordable solution, technology that based on the fact that I sat in the same seat you did, that we've built to really tie all of this together for you to make save you time and less work in doing this, I want to show you how our platform works. And it is called Cerkl, and it is our solution to automating this personalization, this need to personalize and customize the experience for each one of your donors. Here's how it works. Again, you're producing amazing content, amazing programming. We take all of that, no matter where you're posting it. It could be on YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook. You could be using your own content management system, or you might need a new one. Either way, you can post directly to Cerkl, or we're going to take all the content that you are producing and we're going to grab it. And we are going to tag it. We are going to look at each individual story, post, video, and we're going to identify, what is this about? And the magic really happens when we take that second step and we close the loop among the interest of your donors. So we look at their interest and we cross-reference that, and then we tag it appropriately. So we've got your content, we've got it tagged. Again, all automatically for you. And that becomes one of 6 pieces that fuel this personalization engine, all on the back end, all automatically for you. So we've got all your content, we've got it tagged appropriately according to the interest of your audience. Then we're going to take the next step, and when all of those donors and your audience members are imported in, we're going to ask them, what do you care about, right? These are topics that you get to pick that are aligned with your organization, but we're going to find out right out of the gate, what do these people care about? Then we're going to ask them their schedule, right? When do you want this information? Gone are the days where we're now Googling when's the best time to send out an e-newsletter. It changes all the time anyway. So we're even going to personalize when they want this information. We're going to personalize what format they want it in. Some people want that beautifully laid out newsletter, which we would do automatically. Some just want the headlines. Then we are going to use all of our behavior to all of your donors. For example, I might be a donor in your audience and I am constantly reading about innovation and the technology that you're using, right? I haven't come right out and said that I'm a tech person, but everything I read is about technology. So our site knows that and is going to continue to order up the stories that you're producing about technology in their news feed to keep that donor trusting you and listening to you and engaging with you. And then they can follow certain people. This really gives a fuller personality to your organization. Staff members can have a voice if you choose to let them post. This works well, again, with universities, with certain alumni or students wanting to follow certain professors, things like that. So now, again, like I said, here's our university example. We've got Xavier. This is screenshots from their newsletter. They use our platform. You've got this alumni, again, who is a donor, right? He is interested in innovation history, and he's following Professor Gary. The second one is interested in history, 3D printing, and she also wants to follow Professor Gary. Now, the reason why Xavier is using this platform is they recognized that the alums that they want to give financially, when they first graduate, on average, they're graduating with a debt amount of $35,000. So what are they going to say to these kids, the first 3 or 4 years after they graduate Xavier? This is a way where they can keep them engaged based on their interest and their passions and their talents. Now, the third kid, he's interested in 3 completely different things, and that's okay. The point is, these students are going to continually be excited when they get something from Xavier because it's all things that relate to them, internships that I might need, job opportunities that are in my area of interest. Even if you look at the stories, the first story for the second girl, if you lean in and look at your screen, is first because that matches more of her interest, but yet it's secondly rated for the first guy. That's all very intentional because, again, you may have lost trust with your audience if your open rates aren't very high. That's a good indication of knowing they're not listening anymore. So this is a way to get them listening. And the point is, when you do get them listening and you do have that annual dinner that you want everybody to go to, now they will see it. So here's how it works. This is an example from a Chamber of Commerce here in Cincinnati. When you are imported in, it's going to ask you, what do you care about? You get to pick all the topics, but this gets that personalization process accelerated really fast. We ask them their schedule. Again, you set the default, but they can override it. And then we're going to ask them the format. Do you want just the headlines, something in between, or that traditionally laid out newsletter? And now they can share and spread the word to their social networks that they're supporting you. They can share individual pieces of content, needs that you might have put out there, or updates that really resonated with them. And so this really sparks and propels a virility and helps grow your circle and grow your supporters. So this is what now I will see from the Anderson Chamber. This is a subject line personalized just for me. It's telling me, hey, Sarah, all of your interests that you like, you love business, you love technology, those interests are being highlighted in this newsletter for you. So I'm excited to open it. So this is what their newsletter looks like. It's constantly prompting me with the topics that I'm not following. Hey, are you interested in community development? If I click on that, it immediately adds it to my profile. Here's one from the local public library. Again, I have kids, so in my news, it's going to talk about their summer reading program. However, my mom, who gets the library news, is going to get something that's for the senior population. The fact is, we get what is aligned with our interest. So it's really taking all of your amazing content, getting it to the right person at the right time based on their interest. Now, I know all of you sitting there who are a bit OCD like me, you want that control. Like, what? This completely flips the model. We're giving all the control to our donors. That's right, because you're going to become more donor-centered. But you still have the control. It's all your branding. It's all responsive. It looks good whether that baby boomer is on a tablet or that millennial is on their mobile phone. So all of it really looks good. It looks like it's coming from you. You have all the control still with lots of features that we've built on the back end for your communication team. Here's where the magic really happens, though. Again, I mentioned that we start to close the loop between communication, community relations, events, and development. So right now, you may only have a few pieces of information about these donors. Maybe their email, first and last name. We fill that in with what they're interested in right now in real time. And if you really want to get excited, yes, we can funnel all of that interest data back into whatever CRM that you might be using. So this is how it works. That email list that you have now is transformed into an amazing searchable asset database. So that golf outing that you have, where you're lacking some of those event registrations, you can now search golf. Who's everybody that loves golf? And now those people that love golf will come up and you can reach back out to them. Or maybe you need a speaker on a certain topic. Maybe you're going to be doing a financial seminar. Who is everybody that is in our circle that has that skill? And you can reach out to those people now in really meaningful ways to come and provide value back to your audience. Our insights are really developed to make it super simple for you to see what content is resonating. Everything gets an engagement score. Every piece of content that you put out, we are scoring. So we're going to tell you, hey, here's the top 5 interests that are trending among your audience. Or here's a story that you posted and everybody loved, and you haven't talked about that area of interest in 30 days. You really need to talk about that. We're also going to give each individual donor or audience member in your audience an engagement score. So this really becomes a predictor of who might not give or who is becoming not engaged. So we've got your champions, those people who you can really thank that like and share and interact with you. But more importantly, we're going to tell you who is the least engaged and what their interests are so that you know how to re-engage them and provide value back to them so that they will lean in and really love that relationship that you're sustaining with them. Here's a couple examples. Again, Xavier, they started at a 19% open rate. They were on Constant Contact. Now they are above 50%. Same thing with their click-through rate. They were at a 3.9. Now they are at a 12% click-through rate, which is really high. And my favorite stat is we have nearly eliminated their unsubscribe rate. If you're interested in more of our data, we've got over 400 circles. We've sent almost 4 million personalized newsletters out there. And I like to share this slide because it really shows you on average what our average open rate is, our average click-through rate, unsubscribe rate as it compares to the national average. And here's where I tell people, no matter what tool you're using, you've got to start personalizing because that's really going to re-engage your audience that hasn't been listening. Now, the fact that you have an engaged audience, right? When you get those numbers up, I mean, we have open rates, some as high as 80, 90%. We had one open rate that was 107%. You're thinking, how did they get that? That was out of Pierce Township. And they got that because everyone is opening their newsletter and everyone is sharing things out of their newsletter. The point is, you've got them warmed up. So now you can go back to your donors who might own businesses or your sponsors and really bridge that gap between their sponsorship dollars and their marketing dollars because you have a real marketing channel now. You can provide real value and say, you know what, our audience is listening. Let's get your message in front of our audience and tie that to all the wonderful things that we're doing. And the great part is all that revenue goes back to you. So the communication and marketing department, usually who has expenses and you're trying to prove that ROI on everything that you're doing, now you flipped it. Your communication channel is no longer an expense. It is a revenue generator all the while building and strengthening that relationship with your donors and your sponsors. Again, the number one trend in media for 2016, it is this personalizing the content for each member of your audience. That is the way that it is going and the way that it is evolving to account for all of these changes of each individual donor. We get this question a lot. Okay, how easy is it, right? We're on MailChimp, we're on Constant Contact. If I flip what happens? We have an entire team that makes it very easy for you to transition from one to the other. We're going to save you time now because you never have to design another newsletter again. It's all automated. It's all ordered by, this is the most engaging piece of information for this donor. It's almost like you're now scaling that one-to-one engagement. You're going to be doing less work because we now know what the donor wants to see. It's like we're the insider saying, hey, did you hear what they're doing in this area? You needed to see this. So now all that time that you were spending doing that can be spent on very high quality strategy and spending more time with your donors and engaging them in ways that they want to be engaged. So if you're interested in learning more, again, the way we operate here at Cerkl, we totally understand people might be a little worried to try a new piece of software or new piece of technology. We would love to test it with you. So we are very open to doing a test. We can talk with you more about that. You can email me at Cerkl, Cerkl.com, and we would love to help you engage like never before with each of your donors and each of your audience members. So now at this time, we would love to take questions. The way our question and answer session works is we don't ever want to make you feel like that kid in class who is shy about raising their hand, like, what if I ask the stupid question? All of our questions we're going to read out loud at this time, although we will keep them private and they will not show up in the chat box. So we won't be tying any names to the questions. All right, so let's see who has a question.